Today, we are discussing the sacredness to everything that you feel on both a soul level and a spirit level, or on a human and divine level. And so, this is to guide you as to how these different levels are working for you to understand the love that you are. So, let's do it. Let's get started. Thanks for joining me today. I'm excited because I get to talk about emotions and I love talking about emotions. And I want to be able to break our emotions down for us because there's a way to understand them from our human selves. And then there's a way to understand a deeper meaning that's really tied to our spirit. And so that's what I'm breaking down today and interweaving, of course, with a little bit of ancient text because I'm always in awe how there was a knowingness about these truths many moons ago, centuries ago, and how we can pull from that to gain greater understanding about ourselves. And so let's begin with this human tendency to get confused about our feelings. Like, why does that happen? Why do we have this tendency to not trust how we feel and not trust what are my feelings trying to tell me? And this is the perfect opportunity to really get into what I mean about the practice of having ears that hear. Because obviously, we're talking about going beyond the third dimension, our how we tend to interpret reality, to the fifth dimension, which is really this practice of love that we are walking the way of love. And the way of love is really that we understand that the kingdom of the divine is within our hearts. And how do we get more connected to that place within us that unites us with all there is, including the divine within us? And so, right there, you can see that your feelings are going to have a deeper meaning than we often give them credit for. And so, in the way of love, your feelings are this precursor to disillusion. And disillusion is very important because this is where we are being guided by our feelings through being triggered with tears, which is part of the dissolution process. Because when we're feeling that feeling deeply and those tears come forward, we are releasing energy that is tied to our egos. And the beauty is that our mind doesn't even have to fully comprehend what's happened. There is the sense of clarity we feel, or we have this aha moment after we cry, exactly because there is less of an attachment to one of the layers, one of the veils of the ego. And so, what I want us to really take in here is that this happens when we are being with our feelings. And this is so important because there's been this notion that I think really inhibits us from being able to be and listen and trust what's coming forward, because we've been told that we should force ourselves to feel different, um, especially if you feel negative. And when we do that, we're not doing anything to dissolve the ego's grip. The ego's grip won't be lessened that way. And so what we're talking about here, when we go into a feeling and allowing its energy to move, is vastly different from trying to maintain a certain mood or that high vibes only mentality. I think that came from a well-intentioned place, but it was trying to help us feel better, right? But it also was under the guise of, this is how you remain productive. But just think about that, especially now where we are at in this world of AI. We aren't meant to be machines. We have literally built machines, so you don't have to do that. And what this means for you is that you don't have to constantly be productive. You get to be the creative genius you were born to express. And that's when life gets exciting, and that's when life feels more meaningful to you. So to allow ourselves to be in that flow state where the creative genius comes forward with ease through you, you obviously want to be able to recognize what is blocking your flow. And so this is where our negative emotions come in. They arise to help us dissolve what is false. Like, I just love that definition. They arise to help us dissolve what is false. And in doing so, we genuinely feel better. And we're able to genuinely feel better more often and with greater ease. And this is exactly what puts us in an authentic, relaxed state that supports your creative genius to move through you without being interrupted by your ego. The thing is that there is no shortcut to being able to create that experience of flow and creative genius. And so this is why, with those that have ears to hear, you are learning to be less and less attached to the disempowered messages of the ego. That's part of what we're having ears that can hear. And recognize instead that there is a dis-ease in your system created by something false. And so it's obviously going to be helpful to us if we can bring this dis-ease, this falseness forward, so we can see what belief is taking us away from our truth, so we can remember who we truly are. And your emotions are guiding you to see through the hologram of you that you have created through your thoughts and beliefs, and to separate that out from your true self. Like, this is alchemy. This is what we're doing. And our emotions play such a vital role. So this is why it is a gift to be able to see the holographic distortion that is not you, and then allow the divine and your consciousness that is coming from your heart. Actually, I think of our consciousness and our mind, but it's really bringing that into our hearts to work together to distill any impurities, any of the falseness, any of the lies our ego has told us that we get attached to, so that your energetic body, your vessel, can be clearer and clearer for the divine love within you that wants to be emitted to do so more and more freely. That's what we're doing. And this is how emotions provide for greater freedom, because they allow us to see where the ego is attached. And this is a huge gift. And then when we see where we're attached, we can surrender to that attachment. And we do this by allowing ourselves to have eyes that see the ways in which the ego is holding you a prisoner. And so this is, again, going back to very, we can see this work in spiritual texts. I automatically think about the Gospel of Thomas, where in statement or saying 17, Jesus is quoted as saying, I shall give you what no eye has seen, and what no ear has heard, and what no hand has touched, and what has never occurred to the human mind. This is our ability to hear and see beyond our 3D reality, to know our truth, our love, our power that goes beyond the human mind. This is not in the human mind. And it's something that can't be touched, but it is known through our hearts. So it's really understanding that there's a wisdom, a knowingness that lives within our hearts. And one of the most crucial ways to gain that knowing from within our hearts is to free ourselves from the countless ways that the ego tries to bind us and blind us, because it's always doing that. And our emotions are here to help us not be attached, not be bound, not be blinded. So I know for myself that I used to fight my feelings. I didn't want them raining on my parade. But in the end, that just made me feel more anxious or more depressed or just struggle more. And so then I went on this path where I started to dissect my feelings meaning, this is why when I became a therapist and was really looking to seek understanding. And of course, this was helpful to help me gain understanding for a time. But there's a difference now where I just allow my feelings to show me what I'm meant to be shown in this moment so I can free myself from any insanity of the mind that holds me hostage to fear. And so it's important to take in that, of course, we aren't shown fear to be run by it. We're run by fear when we're ignoring it, when we're trying to push it away. And we really can't overcome fear just by trying to process it. What I have found is that it is when we are ultimately one with fear, oneness, singleness with fear, where it still remains, like fear is still there. It's just that it has less meaning to our hearts. So the overpowering aspects of fear are exactly what dissolve. And when they dissolve within you and you allow yourself to face your fears head on, they just aren't, it's just not having the same impact on you. It's not running your life anymore. And so it's our ability to be able to say, I see you, fear. I see the meaning the ego is giving to you. Yet in my heart, you don't hold that meaning for me anymore. That's freedom. So I like to look at our hearts as self-contained in a way, like an energy that's self-contained, in a sense that they are whole and complete within themselves, energetically. And we have the choice to consciously learn how to fill our hearts with the energy of love or fear based on what we make room for within us. And despite everything that I've been taught, where you think that kicking out fear is the way to make room for love, it often doesn't work that way. It's not like we can tell our hearts, okay, we're done with fear, right? Like our mind just wants to make us believe that we can just say that, and our hearts are like, okay, yeah, I'm done with you, fear. That's just not authentic, right? That's not how it works. It's allowing fear into our hearts and actually experiencing the love and fear. So, what is the love and fear? The love and fear is always leading us to greater freedom. Fear is the trick of trying to make us feel safe and secure from the outside. And love is knowing that safety and security only and always exists within your heart through the kingdom of the divine, living, breathing, expressing through the unique form you are. But do I still try to control my life to feel safe and secure? Yeah, you betcha, I do. Which is exactly why my emotions arise to guide me to see this is where I am again. I'm giving my divine birthright of truth, love, and power away again. It's part of our humanity. And it's okay. It's a gift because when our emotions arise again, it's not to punish us. It's not a statement that you are somehow less than because you're still, quote unquote, doing inner work. It's an opportunity to gain greater ease, greater joy through the freedom non-attachment offers. And that's what we're literally doing with emotions. Where they're like taking the fingernails and the fingers, the deep grip that our ego has around our heart, and just starting to pull it away, pull it away, pull it away, and wants to grab back on. And how can we pull it away with compassion, with love, with knowing it's just not the truth and it doesn't make us feel good and we don't feel free. And so this is why I've always said it is such a gift to be emotionally sensitive. And trust me, I totally get that being emotionally sensitive can be extremely difficult on a human level. But this is what I mean between the difference between the 3D and the 5D. On the 3D, it's difficult because you are taking in information that others aren't attuned to, aren't aware of, and it floods your system. And then you don't understand what's going on, and you're carrying the weight of these emotions, and you're likely not guided how to work with your emotions. And yet, this is the training ground that allows you, your sensitivity is allowing you to access information that is from a realm that is more real than our human form, because this realm is eternal. And your sensitivity is attuned to it all. This is exactly why so many people who are emotionally sensitive are also spiritual. It just tends to go hand in hand. And for so many, their journey is to first learn how to work with our emotions on a human level. Of course, this is what we're like, this is our fishbowl that we're in. And then we get to continue to evolve our understanding, to shift more to the spiritual realm, which allows us to become less and less attached. So, how I see this is a shifting of sensitivity from personal, it's I'm hurt, to interpersonal, where we can be attuned to how others in the world is hurting. So we all start with emotionally struggling on some level, right? And being emotionally sensitive, we are really tuning into our feelings. And there's something important about validating them for what they mean to us on a human level. Like, we can't skip this. We are human. And so we want to take in why our human selves are hurt and why it matters to us. Now, where it gets tricky is with our identity, because ultimately we are both a human soul and we have our divine spirit. So we have these human labels of trying to validate our emotions that turns into I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I am angry. And so we're using these statements to try to bring understanding, but the ego can take the very thing that we're trying to bring understanding, and then we become overly identified with these emotional states. And we're making this declaration on a spiritual level that this is who I am, and it's not. So then the next stage that many people go into is this stage of emotional empowerment. And this is this middle ground of really bringing together and integrating the soul and the spirit as you're more attuned to how your emotions are guiding you to take responsibility for your life and to be a truer expression of yourself. So it's how can I take responsibility on the human level? And in doing so, it allows me to be in deeper connection and expression of my divine selves. And then there is emotional alchemy. And this is where emotions become less and less personally attached and are more about how to allow your emotions to dissolve any residual attachments so that you can embody more love. And so on this level, like your emotions are less about a personal affront. And the good news is that they literally, even though you're still sensitive, they impact you less and less. And because you can recognize more readily where the residual clinging and the fear and attachment is taking place in order for you to more deeply remember your divine truth instead. And so the beauty of this is that it's a process that allows us to gradually let go of attaching and especially defining ourselves through our emotions. So we're still honoring them. We're honoring them for the tool that they are, that they're meant to be to support us to gain greater awareness. And that through that greater awareness, we're going to develop an emptiness of our energetic vessel so that the presence of the divine has the space to work through us with less and less of our ego's interference. And this is where life gets really interesting and beautiful and something that our minds could never comprehend. So we are moving beyond our mind's understanding of what it means to be sensitive, to be emotional, to be depressed, you name it, to knowing in our hearts who we are. And this is a knowing that is both remembered and felt through all of our being. It truly is embodied through a knowingness. But we also are being guided to hold our ego's ability to turn anything and everything into an achievement to make us special, including being non-attached. So we always want to hold this because it's an understanding of just the shenanigans of our ego, right? And so non-attachment is a practice. It is not this place of achievement where you reach the top of a mountain and you're handed a gold medal. Because of course, if we're doing that, then we would be attached to getting the medal. And that's what our ego wants to do with everything. Non-attachment means you are not being attached to what you as a divinely made vessel needs in each moment to remember who you truly are. Meaning it's going to ebb and flow where you remember and you forget. And that's okay. Because what that also means is that your emotions, triggers, or ego, they matter, they serve a purpose, but they aren't you. just like the so-called good aspects of your humanity, such as your spiritual gifts, the money you make, or your success. Those matter. They serve a purpose, but they aren't you. They aren't the truth of who you are, your divine essence, who you came here to be, who you came here to express. Your divine essence is a hologram of the divine, doing your best to express the hologram in its wholeness as fully as you possibly can while going through the various human experiences, some that expand you in ways that you would have never imagined, some that limit you in ways that you would never imagine. And again, none of that defines you. Because the only definition of who you are is the love you are. And that love is meant to be felt and shared. So of course we want to know anything and everything that supports us in doing that or diminishes our ability, right? And that's all that this inner and outer work is about, is to know thyself from a perspective that recognizes you in your entirety, with awe, with compassion, with joy for your unique expression of the divine. It truly is something to be in awe of. Because when I look at everybody and their unique experiences and everything that we go through, and then how this gets to be expressed through you, it really is the awe of seeing that ripple effect, that your unique vibration, tune, energy gets to connect and impact the hearts of those around you, the world, your community. And it's like, it really is mind-blowing because it's beyond our minds. So if you would like support with this, especially with non-attachment when it comes to your emotions, I really invite you to check out my Eyes Wide Open program. That's what it's all about. It's really about how do we start to see, how do we get less grip on some of these ways that we may have defined ourselves because we've been emotionally sensitive, because we've had emotional struggles. And now that we've gone, it's really helpful for those who've like done inner work, done therapy, done shadow work, but now we're leading into more of the fifth dimension. So if you want to have practice with that, I am offering that program for 50% off through the end of May, and I will have a link for that in the show notes if you're interested, if that can support you. So until next time, know that there is nothing to fix, just to remember.
I am so honored you have joined me today. If you enjoyed the I'm Perfectly Divine podcast, subscribe so you don't miss any of our power-filled episodes. Also, if you know another who is strong, sensitive and spiritual, and wants to dive deeper into emotions and ancient wisdom, so they too can create profound peace and fulfillment from within, please share this podcast. Thank you again for joining me, and I look forward to reconnecting with you soon.